Hello, welcome to another weekly video. Today I'm going to be talking about going no contact or cutting off relationships with certain people. Um, sometimes we have to do that in in our lives. We have to cut off relationships with people who we really care about. And I guess I'll mostly speak to cutting off relationships with family because I think that's what people tend to do the most. But you know, I know a lot of people cut off relationships with um with really close friends and just people that are close in your lives. Sometimes we have to do that, like I said, and and there's all kinds of relationships that maybe fit that category, but um I think a lot of people just have a hard time making that decision and excuse me, um trying to figure out if it's in line with God or Christianity, if that's how you want to say it. Is it right? Is it wrong? I mean, I don't know if you ever struggle with things like that. I know I do. I don't. I constantly just want to feel like I'm doing the right thing. I want to know that I'm doing the right thing. Um, I want to make sure that I'm not making a mistake that is going to cost me. Um, I guess relationships or cost um, something really important. You know, you think about consequences to your actions. I mean, nobody wants to have a consequence. Excuse me. So that's really what I'm talking about. The sorry, I've got a chest cold, so bear with me. Um, excuse me. Um, so really, I'm gonna try to talk about some of that. So I've actually spoken to people that have this mentality of, you just don't you don't cut off relationships. Actually, almost everybody I know thinks that way. Excuse me. They tend to think that it's just not appropriate to cut off a relationship. I remember thinking that. Well, I remember talking to my family members, and they just really didn't believe in blocking people and cutting off relationships. Now, don't get me wrong, they I don't think that they realize this, but they would punish you in other ways. Now that they, like I said, they're not going to say that. But instead of like cutting off contact, you'll find that this person punishes you by uh, not responding to your message for a couple of days, or and then you have to keep um, trying to get back with them, and you end up feeling like you're doing a lot of work in the relationship. That's just an example that I've gone through. So it's kind of hard for me when my family has talked to me about how they said things like, "Oh, well, it's just never appropriate to cut off a relationship." But when I see what their actions are, they're doing a lot of toxic things that will still harm the relationship to me. Um, so, I mean, maybe that is fine for some people. If that's really your two choices of, um, cutting off the relationship um, or punishing in some other way through not responding to texts or um, not not being in touch or saying sometimes I notice little like harsh things said when you're actually talking to the person. That's another punishment I've received for struggles in relationships. I'll just put it that way. But I guess I'll try to just focus on cutting off the relationship. Um, So, like I said, is it right? Is it wrong? Um, I've tried to stop thinking like that as much as I get older. Especially when it comes to God. I don't really think that God looks at things like, are they right or are they wrong? Um, I think God kind of just lays out, you know, the rules, if you want to say in the Bible, rules. He kind of lays out a path for your life, and you either get consequences or not. I don't think He is sitting there thinking you're doing something wrong by cutting off a relationship. For example, I've had to cut off my mother and my father because of some abusive things that were going on. And, I don't think God views that as wrong, but I think He wants us to understand the consequences that we receive by doing things like that. Um, like I said, nobody wants to have consequences, but that's reality. You have to accept your consequences. So I'll just put it like that. You are going to receive consequences to cutting off a relationship. You have to accept that. Um, and I guess you just have to um, make your decision based on, the consequences of staying in the the consequences of staying in the relationship or the consequences of cutting it off. Which has been very difficult for me, specifically with my dad, because um, we haven't really had such a toxic relationship, but um, he's just been really communicating with my mother too much, and he doesn't really know how to say no to her, so I kind of have to cut off that relationship because um, he's just he's causing damage by um, passing her messages to me, and not really respecting the fact that I don't want information going to her and stuff like that. So um, it could be complicated. Um, there's obviously a whole lot of damage that comes with doing it, like I said. Um, if I ever try to go back to the relationship with my dad, I have to deal with the consequences of cutting him off. I have to, try to repair that damage the best I can. And unfortunately, people just a lot of um, a lot of people really don't know how to talk about what they feel, and they don't know how to deal with that kind of damage. So um, I expect a lot of punishment if I ever were to try to talk to him again. Um, Unfortunately, that's true with my mother too, but I was receiving quite a bit of damage, punishment from her without even cutting her off. So like I said, that's kind of the consequence you receive. You have to feel some level of guilt because, that's not really how we're raised. We're not, um, well, maybe some people are. I wasn't raised to cut off relationships, and I remember my family just, my sister specifically would just, she would always feel so hurt when I cut her off. She was on drugs for a long time, and I actually had to cut her off several times, and I would come back and try to reestablish the relationship and have to cut her off again. And um, I found a better way to kind of distance myself from her, but she would always talk about how it really hurt her to be I guess blocked and not have a relationship. And she talked about how she just would never do something like that. And so we just weren't really raised to do that. But my mother did have a tendency to cut off many people in her life. Um so unfortunately that was an example I had to see. But she never encouraged that kind of behavior. It's just something that I saw through example. But um, sometimes there are consequences that we could deal with, and sometimes there's not. So, like I said, you have to accept the consequences that you'll receive. Um, Most of the time, when you have to cut somebody off, staying in the relationship is actually more consequence than leaving. So um, that's kind of where things usually end up for me. I don't I don't really see how I can get enough benefit by staying in the relationship, so I just have to walk away. But I think that's kind of answering the question of, is it right or is it wrong? Like I said, I don't think God really views it that way. I don't think we should. We should just, understand what we're getting ourselves into, and just really, um, examine both options of staying in the relationship or not. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. If you have any questions, just leave it in the comments section. And thank you for watching. Have a nice day.